Welcome to today's session. My name is Amanda Hendley. I'm the managing editor at Planet Mainframe, and we are here for the PopUp Mainframe Persona webinar series. This is session 2. Today we're talking about accelerating mainframe efficiency, and this is our training and onboarding webinar. This series is hosted by Planet Mainframe in conjunction with PopUp Mainframe, and it builds on a series of articles published on the PopUp Mainframe blog site that discuss the unique challenges facing different technical teams within the mainframe. So today we're talking about the challenges and needs of the training community and everything that they need to effectively execute their crucial roles, whether it's in-house, service providers, designers, administrators, or trainees. As we move along today, we'll do questions towards the end of our session today, but you can drop them in chat, especially if you have any things that'll roadblock your learning through today's session. Please drop it in chat and we'll try to help you there. But at the end, we'll have some time to do Q&A. So here's our agenda. We've got our introductions. We're going to talk about the market. We're going to talk about difficulties and bottlenecks. We've got a demonstration for you. And then after Q&A, we're going to end the day with some resources that you can take back with you. So let's get started. We've got a few introductions for you. I think you've probably, if you've participated in any of these or checked out the blog, you have met Derek, Stuart, and Stephen with PopUp Mainframe. They represent a ton of expertise in this space, but I want to also highlight for you Geoffrey Decker, our special guest, who is on our session. Geoffrey is an IBM Z Champion. He is an instructor at Northern Illinois University. He's one of the big primary instructors teaching mainframe across the country, keeping our industry moving forward with new talent. He's a multi-year IBM champion and an influential mainframer from Planet Mainframe. So Geoffrey, I want to thank you so much for being here and being a part of our session today. So let's get started. Derek is here. He is a mainframe market expert. And Derek, in your role as Chief Marketing Officer, I want to have you come and talk about the market and the challenges.
Right. Cool. Thanks, Amanda. Yeah. Hello, everyone. So if anyone was on the last webinar, we're going to cover some similar ground here, but of course our angle of attack is slightly different because of the topic. And there's no one on the call that won't be aware of the pressures facing mainframe organizations today, as those organizations are demanding more. The pace of change continues to accelerate, doesn't it? And you can see on this screen, the keen-eyed amongst you, the word modernization, which is a sort of catch-all phrase used to talk about how major change is being executed in the mainframe world. It was interesting to see Gartner Group reports ahead of this year that 7 out of 10 leaders are going to be spending more on this thing called modernization than ever before. And so budgets are continuing to support, actions and aspirations on the mainframe. And last year, the guys and I at PopUp Mainframe, we ran a market survey of our own to try and dig into a little bit more behind what the issues were driving that modernization. And the survey, which was run by an independent organization called Vance Bourne Market Researchers, they provided a number of telling insights, actually. The full report's on our website, but some relevant details for this discussion today here. One major issue, as you can see on the screen here, is that mainframe teams are actually hampered by a lack of mainframe environments. They don't have access to the mainframe as often as they'd need to execute the change that they want to. And as I mentioned in the last webinar, it's amazingly over a third of respondents said that they had a critical need for more ZOS environments. And perhaps equally relevant for today's conversation as well, that 79% of respondents, mainframe leaders, remember, they talked about inadequate tooling and skills challenges that were hampering progress for business change. So that's 8 out of 10 that are worried that, their skills aren't good enough or the tooling isn't good enough, and a third are in critical need of more environments. It's a fair conclusion, I think, to draw that these are big challenges when it comes to mainframe training. And it sort of begged the question what impacts that would have on, on organizational strategy, which is what the next slide is all about. And those results were again significant. And we asked in the same survey, around this topic about challenges and how it would affect strategic goals. And as we're showing you on this slide, the feedback called for more or less full improvement across all of these categories. In 8 out of 10 responses across the board, in fact, the responses were they were looking for key improvements in each of these areas. So some fundamental challenges are undermining the mainframe as an enterprise server to deliver on these strategic goals. Now, none of that undermines the mainframe's value as a production server, as the enterprise server of choice. But it does suggest that, in this particular topic of mainframe training, we can infer that there are struggles in terms of how that impacts what the training teams need to be able to do. We'll talk about it later, no doubt, but for now, that's a summary of our market findings, Amanda.
Thanks, Derek. So I want to dive into this with a little bit more detail. And Stuart, if we can come to you first, can you talk about your experiences in terms of what you're seeing at PopUp Mainframe?
Sure, thanks, Amanda. So the data points that Derek flagged come from mainframe respondents. So the community have spoken, and I'm not going to contradict that, but I'd certainly like to revisit a couple of those points. The top two in orange, yeah. So the operational reality is that 69% are stating that their plans to increase modernization spend, that's in my opinion, that's going to result in more training, because if you're going to modernize, you're going to change ways of working, it's people, process, tools. They're going to increase that training effort to ensure the return on investment is realized, that people have justified to their management. And then 79% thinking that skills and inadequate tooling are hampering process. Well, if it's skills and the inadequate tooling, we have to provide education to the early in career people and on the new tools. So that's going to need environments to do that education.
And I just want to bring up this quote here that we have from a mainframe training instructor who is also a member of the new Emma apprenticeship program in EMEA, and that's Andy Bristlin. Stuart, would you agree with the points that Andy makes here?
I absolutely would. I know that Andy's on the call as well. I can see him in the attendee list. But yeah, absolutely agree. And I'd go as far as suggesting that the training environments need to be treated as much as an internal product as perhaps some of the other things like the CI pipelines. They require constant adjustment at the software, potentially infrastructure level. We've got updates from the tools, maintenance levels, new extensions. Certainly, we're seeing a lot of Java runtime changes in the last few years. So all of it needs to be version controlled, and most importantly, potentially reset in short turnaround between one course ending and the next one starting. So going back to the previous slide, remember, lack of environments hampers that 69% of organizations who are spending money on research. I'm going back to those numbers, and 79% of organizations that are trying to address the skills gap and inadequate tooling issues. So that's what I would say, man. Great comment from Andy. Spot on.
And we've got, since we've got Geoffrey on today's session, Geoffrey, you're responsible for training undergraduates and many others, and you've been doing this for decades, and I'm sure you've seen a lot of unique situations. Can you comment on Stuart's summary?
Well, yeah. It's critical that when students are learning ZOS or any aspect of mainframe development, that they have a good, solid environment in which to get their hands dirty. you're not going to teach mainframers, or you're not going to be able to teach anything unless you actually have a valid environment in which to do the work, and one that they can really dig into. And we've been fortunate with Emma because we have a company that's been working with us, fortunately, to give us an environment with our apprentices. And at NIU, we currently have an environment that we can work in. It's not an NIU environment, an NIU-owned environment, but one that we fortunately are able to use through what used to be known as the IBM Academic Initiative. And it's been excellent, but there are rumors that that may be going away at some point. So, there's no way in the world I would ever use some type of a platform that didn't provide everything necessary to learn COBOL, to learn assembler, to learn JCL, and you really need to have that. I mean, it's absolutely critical. You can't learn these things by looking at slides, taking quizzes, and getting badges. It's something that you just have to know. I mean, you have to be able to get into.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Geoffrey.
Mm-hmm.
So, Stuart, I'm going to ask you to try to summarize these challenges just in a single phrase for me, okay?
Wow. For anybody that knows me, single phrase, that's a tough one. Okay. So every situation is different, but let's imagine that on a webinar like this, PopUp are going to provide an easy button to press, and using that button is going to instantly stand up a mainframe environment that's completely configured just as required for your training needs.
Great job. Great job. Thanks. So we've talked about the issue. There's bottlenecks. There's a lot of challenges to overcome. I mean, obviously, from Geoffrey's perspective, it's vital that we have a solution that is an easy solution for people. So I'm going to let you, Stuart, take this a little bit further for everyone. And I know we have a training provider example we're going to share.
Perfect. Yeah. So let's introduce you to Blue Horizons. We've double checked this is a fictional company, but we didn't want to highlight some of our partners by name. So we've invented Blue Horizons mainframe training, and they offer a few different solutions. Their training portfolio contains, let's say, 3 courses. We've got AI training because that's hot right now. People want to use, whether it's an IBM solution, a BMC solution, a Broadcom solution for explaining code refactoring. We need to have some training on that. Maybe we need to do a lot of compiling of refactored code. We've got developer experience tools training, whether that's VS Code or Zoe. Anybody that's now interacting with the mainframe probably isn't using 3270 as much as either an Eclipse IDE or VS Code or a command line interface. And then the one that we're really going to focus on is for those early in career people. We're closing that skills gap for maintaining the millions, and Derek's in a better position than me to give you a number, but the millions of lines of code of COBOL. So here we are. We've created this fictitious company, and we're going to talk about those 3 training portfolios. The ideal is that they wouldn't run in a shared environment because they are all running with different attendees. We need to rewind them, etc. So with different goals, different applications, different data, there's lots of combinations of environments. So we're keeping them almost like books on a bookshelf that can be used at a certain time. And there is the easy button with the PopUp Mainframe fast track facility. We take a snapshot of the whole environment, and that can be deployed onto x86 or Linux on Z or Linux One at the click of a button for the attendees to start the training environment. It's at the Linux layer, so it can be stood up as it was originally defined as a gold copy, removing all the previous updates. So when attendees finish, we can rewind it when we need it to the exact correct status at a point in time, matter of minutes. So just to reiterate that the pop-up is instantly available with ZOS. We're using IBM technology, so this isn't us creating an emulation. This is real ZOS on the Linux layer. So anything you want to run in the training environment that comes from your ZOS, we're good with that. The fast track term that I'm using is the facility that PopUp have created, as our own IP to relieve bottlenecks, because we want to be able to go from those different training environments as quickly as possible. It doesn't have to be training environments, but that's the focus of this webinar. I've mentioned they can be provisioned on Linux on Z. So if you've got IFLs, that's a good use case. If you've got Linux One, it can be done on that. And then if you've got a hyperscaler like Amazon or Azure, these training environments can be spun up in the cloud just for the length of time that the training course is required. And just for transparency, the technology we use from IBM only permits dev and test, no prod workload. So that's why the mainframe, PopUp Mainframe offering is perfect for these educational environments. So as you'd expect, as mainframers, I've been a mainframer for 40 plus years. We want it to operate the same as your existing ZOS instances. It can be used by a single user or a group of educational attendees for a training course. I might have mentioned that it just runs native ZOS. So whatever you've got, whether it's 2.4, 2.5, 3.1, we're now rolling out 3.2 on the pop-up. It's good for all of those. Your licensing and the vendors, all of that software is going to run. We've got a web UI. Stephen's going to show that provides you that self-service capability. So an instructor can start their environment when they're ready to go, check it out, rewind it, etc. So that's self-service. And because it's ZOS, modern ZOS, there's lots of different interfaces, whether you want to use 3270 or Eclipse or VS Code or Zoe CLI. All of that is the same because it's just ZOS. And I'm guessing these days all of those things are required as part of any kind of educational session these days. So Andy, you provided us a quote, and the LPAR availability is a big challenge, a root challenge, and how hard it is to set those environments up. So we believe at PopUp fixing that is a major breakthrough. We completely agree with Andy's comments, but I'm not as best placed as Geoffrey. So I'm going to say, Geoffrey, what's your perspective on this?
Well, Geoffrey, I think you're on mute.
Yes, thank you. You have to get up and start running immediately, especially when you're teaching like a 16-week course at NIU. And, we try to stuff as much stuff as we can into one of our mainframe courses because I've only got 2 of them. And I have to teach assembler in that first one. In the second one, I call it my mainframe smorgasbord because it includes all of COBOL, all through tables. It includes JCL. It includes subprogramming and linkage and talking about the 3 common modules, the COBOL compiler, the high-level assembler, and the binder, all sorts of stuff in 16 weeks. We used to have a separate course that was for COBOL, but now it's all got to fit in that second-level mainframe course. So we don't have time to wait around to get an environment prepared, and we can't use any type of a simulator. So something that runs a real LPAR is extremely important, and the quick turnaround from semester to semester is also critical. So, we say that we have 3.5, maybe 4 weeks between the fall semester and the spring. Well, that's really, if you're depending on someone else to set up the environment, like the university mainframe that we use out of New York, they're not dedicated entirely to us. So quick turnaround is important. That's all there is to it.
Stuart, I think you're also on mute.
Thanks, Amanda, for keeping us honest on that one. So thank you, Geoffrey. Yeah, and before we get into the demo, I just want to leave you with the three things that, beyond all of the technical stuff, we want to remember that sustainability is a big thing. So let's not have these training environments just there because when no one's using them. They need to be there when we only need them. So switching off unused resources, I believe that that's an important aspect. The PopUp Mainframe potentially revolutionizes training environments by provisioning things with that self-service capability. So you're, as a trainer, I've done these things. You're not reliant on technicians being available to provide you the environment. You can do it when you need to. And then increasing the delivery of training empowers those practitioners to be more productive. So maybe after a course, they can go back and reuse the training environment to reinforce everything they've learned. Because it's easy to do stuff when you're on transmit and you complete a workshop, but then you go away and you think about it and you think, oh, I wonder if I did this, what would happen? So maybe there's an element of empowering the practitioners from reinforcing their skills. Anyway, it's enough of me. Let's get over to the demo. So Stephen, I think you're going to take the screen share and crack on with Blue Horizons, launching Blue Horizons to the world.
Thank you, Stuart. Good morning, everyone. Building on the discussion, I want to show you how simply one of the biggest challenges in delivering mainframe training, providing every student with a consistent, fully configured environment that can be reset and reused whenever needed. Today, tasks like internal training, onboarding workshops, and custom education all take effort to prepare and set up, relying on access to system programmers, DBAs, and subject matter experts to provide the right environment to support the right activity. PopUp Mainframe changes that. The Blue Horizon Training Company makes use of our modern mainframe training environment. Instead of manually building environments for each course, instructors can create a single master environment containing everything needed for the training. From that master, individual student environments can be provisioned in minutes, ensuring everyone starts with exactly the same configuration, their own individual copy. That's what you want to set up.
I'm going to stop my share so you can take over, Stephen.
You can see my screen?
Yes.
Great. So this is the fast track PopUp fast track environment. This is the main dashboard, so we can see the ZOS status. It's not running in this instance, the PopUp instance that's running on, and the ZOS version, which is unknown because it's not running. Stuart alluded to the fact that we have multiple environments, so we offer 2.4, 2.5, ZOS 3.1, and shortly we will be having a ZOS 3.2 environment available. You can also see there are basic PopUp controls, so you can stop and start the PopUp environment without having to log into the underlying Linux layer and know the commands for starting your environment. We also have the ability to take snapshots, give them a name and a descriptive comment or tag if you like. So you know the purpose of the snapshot that you're using. So just to reiterate, a snapshot is a complete copy of your PopUp instance at a certain point in time that you can return to at any point. So let's go through life cycle of a typical course. So here we can see an environment created by an environment administrator or even the instructor. They've set up a base 3.1 system and taken a snapshot, which we can see over there. And they've copied in or sent from a master copy where they keep all their training courses, and they've sent this across to this instance for the student. So let's take a look at, first of all, we'll need to start the pop-up. So just a quick start, and there'll be an activity log that will tell us the operation, and we can see that it has completed successfully without issues. So let's log on to the environment and see what's been provided. So this is a simple DB2 COBOL course. And the students are provided with a couple of JCL and COBOL skeleton data sets. And there's a DB2 database made up of a number of tables. And those tables at the beginning of the course will be empty. No rows returned. Okay, so going back to the student will progress through the activities. They have the ability to take snapshots for the various modules that they complete. They can, of course, revert to previous snapshots, or they could even share snapshots if something has gone wrong and they need to have a working module completion. Creating the snapshot, you're obviously warned that you're shutting down the instance. We shut down the instance so that we have a single point, and there's nothing going on while we take the backup. So here we can see the snapshot is complete. And moving on, the student has got to the end of the course. We can log in again and see the table has been updated with information, and the data sets, more data sets have been created in the course of the going through the course. Quick, sorry. So this is the end of the course. The module is complete and they have taken another snapshot. So if the instructor would like to start the same COBOL course for new students the week after, it's very easy for them to switch back to the start of the COBOL course using one of the easy buttons, as some of us would say, I guess. So in this instance, we'll be going back to the same course, but they could potentially have snapshots for IMS courses, MQ courses, assembler courses that they could then switch to for that environment for that week. So they do the switch to the snapshot, and you get the warning again, and the branch is running through. So we're reverting the environment to the start of the course. This is actually in real time. So I will just run through, and you can see less than 3 minutes you're through to the course, and there the start of the course, we've returned to that. So I'll go back to logging into the mainframe. We can fast forward through to the database, where we'd expect to see the database is empty once more. No rows returned, hopefully. There we go. And we've reverted to just the 2 data sets that were provided at the beginning of the course. So that's the snapshots which show the life cycle of the course. So what have we actually seen? So with the pop-up, provisioning a classroom of students takes minutes. every student begins with identical environments, and instructors can reset the system whenever they need to. Whether it's restoring a clean environment for the next course, recovering from mistakes during an exercise, or helping a student catch up by sharing a working snapshot, PopUp Mainframe and the fast track facility to manage the environments removes much of the operational overhead associated with delivering hands-on mainframe training. Those responsible for mainframe training are often hampered by a difficult environment to manage and only limited resource. That all goes away with immediately available environments that can be pre-configured, shared, and restored whenever training requires it. So though Blue Horizon may be a fictional company, but the process it is using is very real. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. I'm going to take back over the share because we've got some time now for Q&A. I hope that screen share worked. I've got some questions that came in during the registration, but I also want to let you know, all of our participants today, you can put them into chat and Derek and I will be monitoring that. But my first question that came in is about support of multiple versions of ZOS. And it says, we're planning an upgrade to 3.2 soon, but we need to train teams on tooling running ZOS 3.1 and 2.5. So there's a layer of complexity in their shop. So can someone, maybe Stuart, give me a little bit of information about that?
Sure, Amanda. Yeah, the pop-up and the fast track facility can have those two images or branches that are available. Being able to work on 3.2 is good. Sometimes there are compatibility issues between kits. You know, there's tolerant maintenance that can be applied to the images so that you can do those things. But as we're currently in that transition with clients and prospects, that 3.2 is a real thing. So working with them to get those environments so you can experience ZOS 3.2 in all its glory, doing the same things that you were doing on 2.5 with the enhancements. I hope that's addressed the question. It's just ZOS from our perspective. That might seem a little bit flippant, but it's just ZOS from our perspective. So you can hop between the two instances pretty seamlessly. You can share files, because we're keeping volumes on those images that Stephen showed separate. So it's pretty easy to transfer between the two images so that you get consistent data for testing or transactions, etc.
Thanks, Stuart. There's another question about, it might be licensing related, but use related for sure. Our organization runs training, but it's once per quarter for about 4 weeks. Can you switch this on and off and change configurations to support different training courses?
For sure, yes. That's exactly the message I was trying to get across in one of the slides, that you have that bookshelf of the different training courses. So its assembler may only be run maybe twice a year. COBOL is being run every couple of months because of the duration. JCL equally frequently. So yes, that you can have multiple pop-up licenses potentially. So you're running a JCL course on one license and COBOL on another. There's no issue. Once you built the original gold copy that goes into the fast track library, then you can run those side by side or sequentially, no problem.
Thank you. And let's see. Does this work for internet-based courses? We do have trouble with shared environments being impacted by trainees. So does this work for internet-based courses?
There's no reason why with TCP/IP you couldn't come into, I'm in the UK, our data center is elsewhere in the world. We get into the environment using the internet, TCP/IP. So yeah, there's no problem with interacting with the pop-up mainframe from anywhere in the world to run the or to interact with the course. The beauty that we were trying to get across is that there isn't that impact because it's not a shared environment. It's dedicated to the training environment. So if someone is IPLing to apply some ZOS maintenance or whatever it is, your environment's protected because it's only there for the duration of the training course.
Thank you. And Geoffrey, are you doing any remote courses or utilizing remote access for your students?
Well, actually, the mainframe that we access is remote, entirely remote. It's in New York, so, and we're of course in Illinois. So there are some problems that appear once in a while, especially in trying to get their output downloaded to their computer to turn it in for grading. It would be nice to have something that could be set up so that we could do that more easily. But yeah, and of course Emma is all remote. All of our people are around the country doing their training remotely. So, you just got to provide that environment. And PopUp sounds like a pretty darn good way to do it,
It does. Or just stop taking those pesky grades, Geoffrey.
Oh,
Those
stop
students
grading
great.
their materials. Yeah, that would go far. Grade them in Emma too. We have to go through their stuff, and it's. But yeah, you gotta grade the materials.
We are thankful that you do. We are.
Yeah, thanks.
Someone had commented that our service provider is our training environment provider as a part of their lease. I'm sure that there's some pros and cons to that. Maybe Stuart, you can comment on it.
Sorry, Amanda. Could you just repeat the question? Your service provider?
Yeah, someone that said, as a part of how we lease our mainframe, our service provider provides our training environment.
Okay. So yeah, they could leverage the PopUp Mainframe, the service provider, and create that unique environment that is for training only. So they don't have to spin up potentially a larger environment for training, and it only exists for the length of time that the training course is required. That's always a challenge if it's a shared environment, that it can be bigger than it needs to be. So if the service provider is in Sono or Kyndryl, they're familiar, both of those organizations are familiar with the PopUp Mainframe, that it's an option for the service provider to have a fit for purpose rather than a shared environment.
Awesome. Thank you. And I'll leave it open for any more questions that come in. I see one for Geoffrey, but I don't think it's quite technical for us to talk about right now. But there's another comment about probably the scale of the need here. So we typically only have 1 or 2 new trainees a year, and we do over-the-shoulder learning. Can you comment on how this might work for them?
Yeah, I can say that that's the right sized environment that we were talking about. That spinning it up in the cloud for the training environment means that only the resources needed for those individuals attending are used, and when they're finished, they can decommission the environment and reset it back to wherever. So that's another great use of the pop-up environment, that it can be right sized just for small numbers of attendees, and it's on demand. So yeah, that's probably the nicest requirement, rather than having a big shared mainframe environment. If you've only got one person, then you can have it spun up in the cloud with the minimum resources for that person to complete the course and move on with their mainframe career.
Do you mind if I make a comment here?
Hope so, Geoffrey.
All of us old guys, and forgive me for saying that, we're going to be retiring at some point, and a lot of the people that know how to control these environments inside organizations, they're busy as can be because all of their colleagues have been retiring or getting ready to retire. So a company SysProg is not going to have the time to, often doesn't have the time to go in and create this learning environment for the people that need to learn. So it can be very expensive. I know a lot of people that are pretty grumpy about the situation. They'd like to retire and being asked to do one more thing so the young people in the company or younger people in the company can learn how to take over things. They don't really have the time. So the ease of PopUp is going to be, a major factor in getting your people trained the way that they should be.
Thanks, Geoffrey. I want to make sure we've got plenty of time to share with you some resources and next steps. So, Derek, can I turn it over to you?
Yeah, you can. I was already off mute, so that's even surprised myself. So there's a couple of places to just refer you to. I mean, there may be people on the call that they're more than familiar with the PopUp story and what we've been up to lately. But just as a sort of recap, the whole premise of what we're talking about here is based on the fact that there are many people, different functions within the mainframe organization that have different types of struggles. They may be caused by these access issues that we were talking about in the survey. But it manifests itself in different ways to different teams, whether they're developers or testers or SysProgs, as Geoffrey was just talking about, or of course, like today with trainers. So we've written that up and tried to describe that in a sort of a series of articles and narrative. And that's the first link you see at the top there. And we think it touches on all of the potential use cases for PopUp Mainframe, but there may be others that as you read it, they may uncover other things in your organization that matters to you. The second link is specifically to this story today, the whole training scenario. I was listening with some interest about some of those questions that they cover two of the most typical cases that there's typically some compromise in terms of what training is provided simply because it's a shared environment. So we can't do everything that we'd like to simply because it's just too risky to let people loose to break things that are too important. Taking down an LPAR and standing it back up just because one person's broken it, that's you have a sense of humour failure quite quickly there if you're the SysProg. And so why training matters and why flexible training matters becomes more important the more you think about it. Stephen's great demo only scratched the surface of what's possible with PopUp, of course. And we've recorded some demo videos of other things, other facilities, and that's available on YouTube and on our website. And if you want to read about the products themselves in a bit more detail, that's also on our website, as you would expect. Products that we call PopUp X and Z, or I'll translate that X and Z. And X is for x86 and Z is for Linux on Z. So finally, the mainframe market research that we've referred to, that page is still live as well. There's various write-ups, including on Planet Mainframe, I would add, but that survey and those survey results are still available for anyone who wants to see them, because I think it was quite an absorbing study, and again, we only scratched the surface. I could go on for longer, Amanda, but I think that's enough of a summary of the resources I would recommend.
Thank you, Derek. I was just going to drop these links into chat real quick. I thought it might be helpful for folks to be able to click on them directly. So
Yeah,
one
go
second, I
for it.
pulled those up for everyone. So some great resources for you. I think the blog is definitely something to check out. Before we go today, if there aren't any other questions, which you can absolutely drop in, and if we don't get them, we won't get them answered live, but we'll make sure that you get them answered via email or phone. I want to invite you all to the next session on September 21st. It is at 11 a.m. and this is our dev and test session. So for your colleagues and contacts that are in the app dev, mainframe DevOps, QA roles, this session is really going to talk about how they can accelerate what they're doing and deliver change faster. So you can go to planetmainframe.com. I believe it's planetmainframe.com. Persona series will get you there, or just planetmainframe.com, and there's links for it to register. And again, this session's in September. We're going to take a little bit of a break next month, but I look forward to seeing everyone at that next session. And that is the end of our session, our webinar today. So thank you, Derek, Stuart, Stephen, Geoffrey, and everyone. And thank you for everyone that participated and attended today.
Amanda, before you wrap up, I was just going to mention that you might see an orange shirt or two at Share if anyone is going to Share. That's why August is kind of a bit of a void for the thing, because there's that important conference happening in Pittsburgh, is it?
It is. It is. And I'll be there too. So I hope we can all meet up.
Me too. I want one of those orange shirts.
They might
See what we can do, Geoffrey.
Yeah. Geoffrey will be there. I understand he's got a large contingent of students. Yeah. So look out for all of us. I'll be in Planet Mainframe, Stuart and Derek in their orange, Geoffrey perhaps in orange too at that point in time. And we'll see y'all next month, live and in person. I hope I get to see everyone.
Thank you, Amanda. Thanks, everyone.
Thank
Bye
you.
for now.
Thank you.